So even though we hear this saying as like Nepal is a small country, okay, that's only true when we compare it with our like a big neighbors, okay, because Nepal lies in between, the China and India, okay, and their population is like the world's number one and number two. So definitely when we compare with like these like giant countries, then definitely we see Nepal as a tiny country. However, there are many countries that are even like smaller than Nepal. Okay, there are many countries whose population is like smaller than or less than that of Nepal. Okay, so in terms of like that, we are not that small country. Okay, and definitely in terms of like a diversity, when it comes to like cultural diversity, like ethnic diversity, and so on, Nepal is not really lagging behind in that respect. Okay, there are many languages spoken inside Nepal. Okay, there are many different like ethnic groups in Nepal. Okay, from like upper regions to the lower Terai regions. Okay, there are many ethnic groups here. All right, and the good thing is that we live relatively in harmony with each other. Okay, so there is a sense of ethnic coherence. All right, so there is like a good environment despite the differences in terms of all this divisions in a sense. All right. So basically, ethnic diversity is the harmonious coexistence of different people of different ethnicities. Okay, and that can be readily seen in the context of Nepal. Okay, so when we look at our neighboring country, India, we hear like many incidents, like like it comes to news about people basically having their differences in terms of like religion and like people they have like disputes and so on. But in Nepal, it's not like that. Okay, so we Nepalese generally live in harmony with other people, even though they have different differences in terms of like languages, religion, ethnicity, and so on. All right. Okay. Okay. So Nepal, as I mentioned, even though it's relatively smaller, it has like over 100 languages. Okay, and even like different in ethnic groups in Nepal. Okay, so Nepal used to be a Hindu kingdom. Okay, but with the new constitution, Nepal is now a secular country. That means all religions are equal, and you have like a right to not even like a like practice any religion as well. All right, so people have right to choose any religion or not choose any religion at all. All right, so that's the in a sense it is uh, like good thing or however you want to take it. Okay, it's a secular country now. All right, so in terms of like a religion, okay, Hinduism is in the majority. Okay, it's more than 80% of people they are Hindu or they practice Hinduism. And like Buddhism is kind of like less when you compare with Hinduism. It's only about 9% of the people they practice Buddhism. However, it's a unique thing about Nepal that people who belong to, let's say, who call themselves Hindu, they also kind of like celebrate like Buddhist festival. And people who call themselves Buddhist, they also practice like Hindu like festival. Okay, it's a unique thing about Nepal, and I don't think you'll find that anywhere in the world where people of one religion they would like observe like or like they would basically celebrate festivals belonging to like another distinct religion, right? So Nepal also has like a decent like a Muslim population at 4.4%. This study was done in 2011. Okay, so I would assume that in 2000, if they do the study now into 2020, this number would definitely like change. Okay, so in 2011, the number of Christian people in a proportion was only 1.4%. Okay, and those who practice Kiratism, it's 3%. Okay, then all right. And in terms of languages, okay, Nepali is spoken predominantly in Nepal. Okay, so it is like like a presumed a national language. Okay, although there are other languages as well. Okay, and followed by Mathali, which is at 11.67%. Okay, and so on and so forth. All right. Okay. And it's interesting. You have like so many people who can speak several languages in Nepal, right? That's a kind of like common thing, right? Even like when like in if you talk about like let's say Britain, United Kingdom, or America, all right? They're like the language of use is English, right? And they teach like different languages, like kids, like children there can take like different languages in school. But beyond that, okay, they are very kind of limited in terms of language use, okay, or knowing like different languages. But that's something different in Nepal, especially for people belonging to different ethnic groups. They would have their own like a mother tongue, okay, then they would speak something different in terms of let's like official use language, and definitely many like people these days they are also kind of like a pretty proficient in English as well. So they know several languages. Okay, that's a good thing about Nepal. Okay, now in terms of like ethnic groups, okay, so Chetri people they occupy about 16%, 16.6%, followed by Brahmin Hill people at 12.2%, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's like different, and in the ethnic groups they're not limited to just what you see. So under like others there, which occupy 31.2%, it has like a whole host of other ethnic groups. All right. So definitely Nepal is rich in ethnicities, okay, and languages as well. And there's like even like an ethnic group, like a nomad ethnic group called like Rautes. Okay, they don't basically own a house, okay, or like a farm. They basically are nomads or travel from one place to another for their subsistence. All right, so you have some like dresses, like ethnic dresses or traditional dresses worn in Nepal by women. Okay, so again, like it's not limited to just these only. Okay, there's like there may be like even more varieties that we don't see in the picture. Okay, so this is just the representation of different traditional dresses. All right. So similarly, again, like we have only few traditional dresses for men here, but again, you would know a lot many more than what you can see in the screen. Okay. All right. So definitely, just the four pictures do not do justice to the vast ethnic groups that is present in Nepal. Okay. Okay, so now coming to the like different statistics about Nepal. Okay, the total population that was no, calculated in 2019, it's close to 30 million, or to be precise, to be exact, it's at 28.34 million people. Okay, so you can see that population is not small. All right, there are many countries whose population is even less than the population of Nepal. Okay, so you can compare the population of Australia with Nepal. Okay, and you'll see Australia is so like a it has like the land is like way bigger than that of Nepal. But population, you'll be surprised to find the population of Australia. Okay, when you compare with Nepal. All right, so majority of people they live in like a not the urban areas but rural areas. Okay, that means in the villages. All right. So even though that is so, okay, but the population density in the urban areas is high. For example, the population density in Kathmandu, the capital city, is very high. Okay, so overall, okay, when we compare the overall population of Nepal, so most people live in rural areas. Okay, so only about like 20% of the people they live in urban areas or cities. Okay, and the population density of the cities, okay, that's very high. Okay, so some of the cities, some of the major cities in Nepal, it's Kathmandu, which is the capital, Pokhara, Biratnagar, Nepalganj, and Birganj. Okay, there's also like a newer, like a cities here, like Hetauda, Butwal, and so on, Dharan, right? Some of you may belong there, may have come from these areas. Okay, all right. So this is like the population distribution. Okay, and also it's a fact, okay, about Nepal that a big majority of people, okay, they actually have like immigrated overseas for work. Okay, so we'll get into that in the other like slides. Okay, where we'll kind of see like like we'll see a little more about like a number of like a proportion of people who have immigrated to countries like Malaysia, Middle East, and India, and so on for jobs. Okay, so that's an open secret that youth, like a big chunk of the youth population of Nepal, they basically have to move overseas for work. Okay, all right. All right, so in terms of demographic, okay, so in terms of age group, so more than 60% of the people, they are below age 60, okay? So, which is a good thing for a country like Nepal. But again, because of the lack of like employment opportunities, or it may be other factors as well. So a big portion of this, like people belonging from like age people who in the productive age, okay, like labor productive age, they are not in the not inside Nepal at the moment. Okay, all right. And the birth rate of Nepal is similar to that of the world. Okay, however, the death rate in Nepal is lower than the world average, which is a good thing because that shows that Nepalese people they tend to live a little longer than the world average. Okay. So there's like parts, like countries around the world with like a lower, like higher death rate than that of Nepal. Okay. So in terms of life expectancy, so male population, the average, the age for male population is at 70 years, and for the women, it's at 72 years. So if you study around the world, women tends to live longer, or women tend to outlive males. Okay, men. All right. All right, so let's come to the, this facts about Nepal. Some say Nepal's economy is, like supported by the remittance money sent by, the youth working overseas. Okay, so that's the truth about Nepal. Okay, so in 2014, okay, according to this number, so more than like 520,000 labor permits were issued that year in 2014. So people going to the countries where Nepal has some forms of a bilateral trade agreement, okay, or kind of like a agreement when it comes to like a labor agreement. So it's like over like a 500,000 work permit was issued that year. So definitely, I don't have the number of like a last year, but I would expect that number to be no less than that. Okay. So for in terms of like a labor destination, people Nepalese normally go to like countries like Malaysia, which is ranked as the number 1 destination for manpower, and followed closely by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and this UAE countries, okay, and Kuwait as well. Okay, so the huge like a chunk of Nepal's like youth population, they are overseas, okay, doing work for other countries or companies in other countries. Okay, so out of all this, like people who have gone for labor migration, vast majority of them are men. Okay, so roughly about 95% of the labor force leaving out of Nepal, uh, it's like male population. So men are actually going overseas in a vast majority than women. Okay, so this 520,000 labor permits. Okay, so that's for the countries that has labor agreement. Okay, however, okay, Nepalese don't actually need labor permit in order to go to India and work, and vice versa. Okay, Indians don't need labor permit to come to Nepal and work as well. Okay, so we have like Nepal has like a many 100,000 like population who go to India and they work and they send the money to Nepal as well. And same thing about India. Okay, according to a study done, India actually the amount of remittance that is sent to India from Nepal is actually more than twice the remittance sent from India to Nepal. Okay, all right. So let's look at some of the positive aspects and some of the negative aspects of having like our like a population working overseas or labor migration. Okay, so as mentioned before, okay, so the money that is sent from overseas, okay, by the labor force, okay, Nepalese labor force, it actually contributes to about 25% of the national GDP of Nepal. Okay, so a big chunk, about 25% of the economy is supported by remittance. Okay, the money sent by the the Nepalese working abroad. Okay. All right. So in terms of like remittance, like a worldwide study, Nepal lies at the third countries with the highest like a remittance sent to the domestic country. So number one country is India. Okay, so Indians actually sent a lot, like vast majority of remittance money to India. So followed by the Nepal, as Nepal lies at the third place. Okay. So let's touch on the negative effects of labor migration. Okay, so number one side effect or negative effect of labor migration is the lack of domestic manpower. So I mentioned like between up to age like 29. Okay, so Nepal's population is distributed like a little more than 60% of the population is covered by this age range. Okay, so let's say from those people belonging to age 18 through 29, let's say, if a vast majority of them they are overseas, okay, working in other countries, that means Nepal is lacking like a manpower here. Okay, so consequently, like a there's a void. Okay, and many Indians actually come here and fill that void. Okay, so that's you guys can readily see here. All right. Okay, so there's also negative effects on Nepal's GDP as well. So we see, Nepal's like economy being supported by the remittance money, but again, with like not enough like manpower, okay, not enough like a, like a able like a manpower, Nepal's economy could not be where it should be. Okay, so the manufacturing, the service industry is like a kind of getting hit because of lack of able manpower in Nepal. Okay, and there's also negative effect on family. Okay, with the family members outside the country. Okay, it could be like a negative effect on children, negative effect as a whole on a family. All right, could be psychological effect and so on, like children having to grow up without knowing their father and so on. All right, and so forth. All right, there's also negative effect on society. Okay, we hear like some villages without many like youth members, like especially men in the villages. Okay, where women they are forced to basically perform some of the like duties or work previously only male would do. Okay, so that's also a situation in Nepal, and also like in terms of, let's say, festivals and the culture. Okay, so without like without the population, the youth, okay, to carry on the traditions. Okay, some of these festivals and so on could be at risk of extinction as well. All right. Okay, so the identity could be lost if we don't have enough population to sustain it. Okay, so anybody has anything to share on what we covered so far? All right, so let's go on to the next topic. Okay, the next topic is on government system of Nepal. Okay, so last time uh, we we touched on the government system of the UK. Okay, so UK has uh, you know the uh, the parliamentary system with the monarch as the head of state, right? So Nepal used to have a system like that before. Okay, so since Nepal got rid of the monarchy, okay, so now the current system is the republic, where it's ruled by the people, or the representative of people. Okay, so Nepal's new constitution was put into law in 2015. Okay, So now the country is a republic with the president as the head of the state. Okay. However, the role of the president is not executive. Okay, it's more like a ceremonial role. Okay, so what the role of the king used to be before, it is somewhat like that right now with the role of the president. Okay, so currently the current president is Bidya Devi Bhandari. Okay, and however, the executive power lies on the prime minister. Okay, and the current prime minister is, of course, the KP Oli. Okay, and in terms of the parliament, it's divided into two houses. Okay, the House of Representatives. Okay, and also which has like 275 members, and there's a upper house, or I think it's National Assembly, which has like 59 members. Okay, so the House of Representatives and the I think the House of the Commons, or in the House of Labor, something, I think the Commons in the UK. The numbers may be similar or may not, like here, the number is like 275. There, the numbers could be like more than, a little more than that, I guess. All right. So definitely the number of the members in the National Assembly, that's definitely low, less in in terms of in Nepal here. There are many differences as well. Okay, we learned in the House of the Lords in the UK. Okay, there the members are actually chosen by the head of the state. Okay, so here only a few numbers. Okay, I think only 3 members are chosen by whoever's the I guess the prime minister. Okay, I think the rest of the members are elected. Okay, by the people, and election is held every 5 years in Nepal. All right, so let's look at the education system in Nepal. Okay, this is education system is pretty similar to what we saw about the education system in the UK. However, in the UK, it's a mandatory or compulsory for like parents to send their children to school once they reach certain ages. Okay, I don't think like there is like a strict law like that in Nepal. Okay, some of you guys can do some research and find that out. Okay, I didn't find any law like that. Okay, so it's actually it's like parents, I guess, prerogative in sending their children, and most parents would send their kid to school. Okay, at least in like a government schools. Okay, so in terms of like education like a system, okay, we can divide into several segments. Okay, so before the age of 5, children are sent into like preschool or kindergarten. So you might have heard about nursery schools. Okay, so until the children turns age 5, they're sent into these schools. Okay, so from from age 5 and beyond, these children children go to primary school, or from class 1 through class 5. Okay, so then there is like that's the primary level. Then there's like lower secondary level, which is from class 6 through class 8. All right, and beyond that there is secondary level from grade 9 and grade 10, only 2 years. All right, so in grade 10 they appear for the board certification. Okay, it used to be SLC, now SEE certification. Okay, so with the SEE certification, they can join high school. Okay, so high school in Nepal is kind of similar to A level in the UK. All right, so this education system is kind of different for those of you who are familiar with the education system in the US. Okay, in the US, high school lasts for 4 years. Okay, all right, from like grade 8 through grade 12. But in Nepal and the UK, it's similar here. Okay, so for 2 years, or that's why they call it +2. It's 2 years. Okay, and they appeared for the HSEB board examination after studying for 2 years. Okay, I mean there's like +1 and +2 as well. So in terms of like education choices, okay, when students finish their SE certification, they can either join the +2 side, or they can go into like they can go to trade certification or getting diploma from like from CTVT. Okay, there may be other institutions like that, but I'm not sure. Okay, so in terms of UK, there were several institutions giving the labor certification. Okay, where basically students after completing their like a grade 10, they would join these like trade schools. Okay, So they would practice their trade. The trade can be, let's say, in nursing, in pharmacy, in let's say carpentry, in plumbing, in trying to be an electrician, and so on. So after 2 years, they for 2 years they learn in and out about their trade field. Okay, so after 2 years, they would appear on for their board examination. Okay, so they will get their diploma after 2 years. So those school students who basically choose +2, more like academic side, they would themselves appear in their board examination, okay, towards the end of their 2 years. Okay, so with their certification, okay, for +2 or diploma, now they can go into, basically for +2, they have like more options in getting to the university, okay, joining different bachelor level courses. However, it's not like in the US as well. In the US, like you have like a greater freedom, okay? Those students who have, let's say, like basically students have more choice in selecting their major. But in Nepal, there's like like a student, they don't have that flexibility in terms of choosing different fields or different like career fields, let's say. Okay, so people who have taken different courses in their +2, now they have a certain like expectation in joining certain fields and so on. Okay, for example, students who take like a diploma in pharmacy, right, for their 2 years, then they may pursue like bachelor in pharmacy or bachelor in nursing for those who study nursing. Okay, they don't have a lot of freedom in choosing, like, let's say, totally different fields. Okay, so I think that's the case with Nepal. Okay, then when they graduate from their +2 or that, definitely they can go join a bachelor's, master's, and PhD and so on. All right, so that's the education system of Nepal. All right, so I'm sure like some of you, like kind of like could correlate between what we learned last time about the UK education system in the UK and in Nepal. All right, there's some correlation there. Okay, the last topic we have is this ill tradition of Nepal. This is actually outlawed. Okay, it's called chopari, and this has been outlawed, but it has not been eradicated completely. So basically, in rural areas, okay, this in some like remote areas in Nepal, so women or girls who have their monthly period, okay, so they are segregated away from their family. Okay, so they basically have to live basically isolated from their family members for a few days. Okay, so this has been a big debate in Nepal. Okay, that's why Nepalese government had to basically outlaw it. But once in a while, we hear the news about that. Nonetheless. Okay, so there has been many incident where actually women or girls they lost their life. Okay, maybe due to like snake bite or due to like a very cold weather and so on. Okay, so definitely this has many health and safety issues. Okay, so this is one aspect of Nepal. So hopefully, with enough people, like with enough like when we awareness on this issue, so maybe this can be eradicated from Nepal, right? So that's the something that you can think about. All right.